Welcome. Happy Monday, my friends, and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. On today's episode of The Prime, we're going to be breaking down the Seattle Seahawks, who last season regressed a little bit after they made the playoffs in 2022. We're not as lucky this most recent season, did not make the playoffs, which is tough because, they paid Geno Smith. And so this is going to be a conversation when we had talking about the Seattle Seahawks. His roster's getting a little bit older. With Tyler Lockett taking another kind of a step backwards last season. Seattle was 9-8 last season, but the Rams got better. Their teams in their division got better, and their conference got better. And so, Seattle ended up being the out man looking in when it came to the playoffs, due to an early loss by the Green Bay to the Green Bay Packers early on in the season. I'm David Huffman. TJ Hopkins should be joining me here shortly as we're going to be breaking down the Seattle Seahawks. And if you want to join me in comments on the show, please like, share, and subscribe as we try to go through all 32 teams in the NFL. And we're down to just 6 after tonight. So we're going to be banging those out over the next couple of weeks. 49ers, Rams, and then we're swinging into the AFC West. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers, local Las Vegas Raiders, and of course the Denver Broncos. Sorry, I'm trying to remember exactly who was in that division. I forgot for a second there. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Thank you to my Aunt Judy for liking the podcast. I always appreciate your support. Let's talk about Seattle. First, let's talk about Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, no longer the head coach of this team in the NFL. You bring in Mike Macdonald, comes over as a defensive guy from the Baltimore Ravens. You go from having the oldest coach in the NFL to having the youngest coach in the NFL. At least he was for a little bit. I think maybe there may be somebody, maybe Gerard Mayo might be a little bit younger than him, but I'm pretty sure. Also, he just celebrated a birthday a couple months ago, so happy belated birthday to Mike Macdonald. Pete Carroll, Pete Carroll had a successful tenure there in Seattle. It'll be interesting to see, he was, won a Super Bowl. He was a Marshawn Lynch run away from winning 2 Super Bowls back to back. He was 72 years old, and it kind of felt like the writing was on the wall there a little bit, that it was probably time to make a change at the head coaching position, with Pete Carroll maybe losing that locker room a little bit and changing the guard. I mean, Russell Wilson's no longer on this team. But Mike Macdonald comes in. He's a defensive coordinator. He was a defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens when they had one of the best defenses in the league. He also was the Michigan defensive coordinator in 2021. It was a coordinator from 2022 to 23. Now he gets this head coaching job. He was also in Georgia. So he's been everywhere where they've had really good defenses. And I think that's going to be key to this next era of Seattle Seahawks football, because they have some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about their cornerback duo in a minute there. But they bring in Leonard Williams from the New York Jets. I think they traded for him actually right before the trade deadline last season. They just kind of re-signed him so they can keep him on the roster. Mike Macdonald brings a tough-nosed defensive mind. We don't really know what the offense is going to look like with Mike Macdonald as the head coach. Let me take a look and see who their coordinator is right quick. Sorry. Ryan Grubb is going to be the offensive coordinator. He comes over from the University of Washington, so not a short drive there. He was obviously under one of the most successful tenures of Washington Husky football, given the fact that they went to the national championship game and obviously got beat by Michigan in pretty easy fashion. There. This is Mike Macdonald. He just brings a new culture, a new fresh offense, a new fresh scheme. It'll be very interesting to see how these players respond to him. He's a younger guy. He's younger than some of the players on the team. So it's going to be definitely a change of like a little bit of the change when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks, as Pete Carroll is out the door there for Seattle, and Mike Macdonald makes his way into Seattle. To the quarterback position, let's talk about Geno Smith. Definitely regressed from which was a most improved player of the year award. He went 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks in 17 games for the Seattle Seahawks in 2 years ago in 2022, a team that went to the playoffs. Didn't play well, particularly in that playoff game, but now, in that last season, 15 games. He did miss some time due to some injuries. And then, he had 323 yards, 3,600 yards passing. He had 20 touchdowns. He had 9 picks. But as a whole, like this team, let me welcome in TJ Hopkins into the show for a second here. What's up, TJ? How are you, buddy? TJ. You there? Welcome into the show, man. Okay. So yeah, back to Geno Smith. Talking about Geno Smith here for a minute.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hey, what's up, man? How are you, buddy? Happy Monday.
Woke up a few minutes ago. That's why it took me a minute.
Oh, that's all good. Anyway, so we were just talking about Mike Macdonald coming in as the head coach of this football team, with Pete Carroll moving on. Like, what are your expectations for Mike Macdonald as he takes over the head coaching position for Seattle?
Be Mike Macdonald. Don't be Pete Carroll. You're not Pete Carroll. Don't. That era is done. I know Pete Carroll probably just moved up in the office. Like they get, how teams do.
I'm not sure what they do with Pete Carroll.
But I'm just saying, what teams do. Like they make up these fake positions for beloved personnel, and that's what I think. That's what they did. Be Mike Macdonald. Shape this team in your image. Pete Carroll might be there to give you some advice and all that other good stuff, but yeah, be original, be yourself.
So when they hired Mike Macdonald, yes, he was the youngest coach in the NFL. So you go from the oldest coach in the NFL to the youngest coach.
That's a shot. That's a massive change.
Yep. To Geno Smith now. We talked about his regression a little bit between year 1 and year 2. I guess as the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. He had 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns and 11 picks in 2022. Came back down to earth a little bit. He was still pretty good, but not as Parisian. He only threw for 3,600 yards. He threw for 20 touchdowns. He threw 9 picks. Not really the production that we saw out of him the season before. Only had 155 yards rushing as well, as he kind of took a step back, but not like as far back as we've seen some stuff out of Geno Smith. But is this kind of a make or break season for Geno Smith and his role here in Seattle? Because there are ways for them to get out of this contract without having all the dead cap money after this year.
I ain't gonna say it's make or break, because I honestly depends on. I think it depends on where they end up drafting. Because if they don't have a shot at the upper echelon of the quarterbacks coming out next year, which is very likely, then no. He signed it's a 3-year deal, right?
He signed a 4-year, but it has opt-outs after year 2, and I think after year 3, where Seattle could break the contract and not have tons of dead money on his contract.
But for what it's worth, he was named to the Pro Bowl for the 2nd straight season. So yeah, I don't think it's a make or break season.
Oh yeah, I lied. Actually, he did sign a 3-year extension worth $25 million per season, with $40 million guaranteed. He also wants a new contract right now. I actually think that this is kind of like, I agree with you. I don't think Seattle is going to be I don't think they'll be poor enough to because there are some really bad teams in the NFL. We talked about as we've gone through this season preview series. There are some real train wrecks in the NFL right now. The Giants. I mean, the Vikings probably going to be one of those teams. I don't think they'll be in a position to take a quarterback, but I think if Seattle had the opportunity to draft somebody, a young player, to be the heir apparent, I think they're going to try to do that this offseason.
And yeah, I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just saying, because this is year 3 of a 3-year deal, and
this is the 2nd year, I think. Yeah, this is the 2nd year, so he's got one more year after this season.
Yeah, it depends. it's obviously it depends on like it could be like the what you call it, like a Deshaun Watson in Houston, there, like where he balls out, but they just somehow don't win games. Like you get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Like it could be something like that. That's a tricky one because it is Mike McDonald. It is his new team. It is his team, and he could just say, "Hey, I want my guy. I want to start over." And Geno Smith could he could be quote unquote perfect, but Mike McDonald might still say, "I want my guy." So
yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I it's going to be an interesting season, then for sure. Let's swing into the other side of the ball. Let's talk about this secondary. Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon. Do you think that they're the best duo in the league when it comes to the cornerback position? And I mean, they're got to be in the conversation, right?
I put them in the conversation. It's again with Devon Witherspoon.
I mean, you made this argument last season. Like he could have been for sure been defensive rookie of the year. Like he was that good last season.
Absolutely. And Reek Woolen, he could have been defensive rookie of the year his year too.
Yeah.
But again, he fell into the Sauce Gardner traps. They hyped Sauce Gardner up so much. It's almost like, damn, we can't hype this guy up and not give him the award. But Reek Woolen was step for step statistically with Sauce Gardner that rookie year. Same thing with Devon Witherspoon. It was like he's going to be in a constant state of, hey man, do it again.
Yeah. I mean, he took a mini step back this most recent season, but he was still fantastic at the cornerback position. He made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, and accomplished the same feat. They both made the Pro Bowls as rookies. They've allowed. I think that they're in the conversation. I mean, like I'm looking at like a Bleacher Report. I mean, the other combo that I think I'd rather have is maybe Denzel Ward and Martin Emerson Jr. of the Cleveland Browns, who I think are a pretty good duo there. I mean, Tariq Stevenson and Jalen Johnson is like one of those conversations. You gotta have it, right? I mean,
you gotta have it. Like it's kind of there.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of that, I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, I don't think there are that many other guys that I would rather have. I mean, Levi Wallace and Patrick Surtain maybe in Denver. Like Patrick Surtain's kind of carrying that a little bit, but like,
yeah, it's a conversation to be had. But the Devin Witherspoon is going to be in a constant state of doing it, and you said so. 14 games, 13 starts, 79 combined tackles, 56 solo, 3 sacks. That's pretty decent for a corner. 16 pass deflections as a rookie.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Like that means like they know what's on the other side. That means, hey, that's Reek Woolen over there. I can't throw to him, so this new rookie for to get tested a lot. And he held his own. 1 interception. 1 defensive touchdown. He took that 1 defensive touchdown was a 97-yard pick six, where he didn't get caught. Like that's 1 forced fumble. Like obviously, if you're Devin Witherspoon, you want that 16 deflections. You probably want to see those. You probably want to catch 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah. And then Reek Woolen, I mean, his stats are gaudy too. I mean, 53 tackles, 42 of them solo. He had 2 forced fumbles. He had 2 picks. Wasn't quite as good as his rookie season when he had 6 picks his rookie year. But I mean, he was still everything you could have wanted out of a corner that you take in the 5th round. Like,
especially because it's a 5th round pick. Like 5th round picks. Day 3 guys aren't really expected to do much once you get past the 4th round.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I think the conversation can be had about them being the best duo in the league. Let's swing into their draft. Obviously, they took Byron Murphy, the big defensive tackle out of Texas, to kind of shore up that position. They do have Leonard Williams, like I talked about at the beginning of the show, but Byron Murphy should be a day one starter and least contributor on the defensive line there. They took a guard, Christian Haynes, who's going to try to shore up that offensive line that was a little bit banged up and just not as good last season, especially their two rookies who were very good as rookies. They definitely took a major step back in year two. And then Trice Knight, linebacker, they took a tight end as they lost Will Disley, and they still have Noah Fant, but A.J. Barner comes from winning culture there in Michigan. They took a corner out of Auburn. They took two tackles in the 6th round, and they took another corner out of Auburn as well. DJ James. DJ, what do you got? What do you think about their draft?
Obviously, you're pairing Byron. You're thinking of the pairing of Byron Murphy with Leonard Williams. You think, hey, that's gonna be nasty. That's gonna be hell to pay with those two dudes up front. Christian Haynes should literally probably slide right into a starting spot. I want to see what AJ Barner can do. Again, this was a Michigan offense that literally just ran people out the building. Like JJ McCarthy didn't have to throw a lot.
His numbers are pretty modest in college. He was used really more as a blocking tight end, but I think it will be interesting to see what he looks like.
That's what I'm saying. Like, bro, I want to see what you can do. Like 22 catches, 249 yards, and a touchdown. That's what you did last season. But again, you were used as a run blocker, so I want to see what you can do.
Christian Hayes, so he only allowed 5 pressures in 729 pass blocking snaps over 2 seasons while at UConn. He did spend 6 seasons there. He redshirted in 2018 and had a COVID canceled season in 2020. Recently turned 24 years old. So this guy is probably ready to play right away. And
keep in mind, those are pressures. Those aren't sacks. That means he pressured the quarterback. But he only allowed 5 of those. Whoever he was blocking, they got around him 5 times total.
And he only allowed 1 sack in 3 seasons, and none in the last 2 years. While he was a guard.
That's good shit right there.
Trice Knight, the linebacker out of UTEP, kind of just okay speed, 4.63, but he had 388 tackles since the start of the 2020 season, tied for 3rd most over that span. But in last season, he had 24 run stops, which is a tackle at or behind the line of scrimmage, tied for 4th most in FBS. So the guy just has a nose for the football. He's probably going to be a fantastic run blocking and probably a special teamer, since they don't really have a lot of depth at the linebacker position, with Bobby Wagner now being gone and Jordan Brooks being gone as well. And then Nahimi Pritchard, the kid from Auburn, he ran a 4.28 at some sort of combine. He had a 4.36 at the combine, which was 4th fastest among cornerbacks. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds. He's a little bit undersized, but he'll bulk up as he continues to mature and grow. He had 329 press coverage snaps since the start of 2020. 10th most among Power 5 players in that span.
Also interested into what they do with Umea out of Utah. They said it's a tackle, right?
They have him listed on. So Pro Football Focus has him listed as a tackle. ESPN has listed as guard out of Utah. But he played right guard, and then he moved to right tackle for his final 2 seasons at Utah. But he's probably built to be more of a guard, and probably have more opportunity to actually play as a guard.
Yeah, I think they like the versatility.
Yeah, I mean, if you can be available and play more than just one position on the offensive line, that's going to be valuable. There's no doubt about it.
And again, this was a unit that was pretty banged up last season. It was step backs across the whole board.
And then DJ James is probably built to be a nickel back in the NFL. He's 175 pounds, just a little bit under 6 feet. He ran a 4.42 at the combine. He's probably a special teamer's depth piece. And then Michael Jarrell, the tackle out of Finlay, which is D2 Ohio football. He took part in Ohio State's pro day. He ran a 4.94 in the 40. He's 6'5", 310 pounds. He included a 32-inch vert and 26 reps on the bench press. So, I mean, he's probably just a swing tackle, like somebody you can use if you need to. So, he's got an MBA too, so he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, that reminds me of the running back on the Bears, like his name's Ian Wheeler. He got accepted into medical school. So if football doesn't pan out for him, he's like, I can always go to medical school and be a doctor. I'm like, that's
pretty good plan B. But I think Seattle as a whole, I mean, I really like the Byron Murphy pick. I think the rest of these picks are just kind of just okay. I'll go with like a B- B on their draft.
Yeah, the Mike Sherrill pick is. Yeah, that's something. He became only the 4th player in that school's history to be selected in the draft, and was the only D2 player chosen. So it's, I mean, he must did, like you read off his numbers. He must impress the right kind of people. 4.96 40 at 309 pounds, a 169 10-yard split, 282 20-yard 481 20-yard shuttle, 796 3-cone drill, 32.5-inch vertical, and an 8.7 broad jump. Yeah, at 309 pounds. Like hey man, you move.
You move it, that's for sure. Let's look at the free agency. Big roster shakeup. So they brought in Laken Tomlinson. They brought in Jerome Baker. They brought in Connor Williams, who's still kind of dealing with an injury there. They also brought in Sam Howell via the trade. They're notable departures. They lost some big time players when it comes to their defense. Jamal Adams out the door. Quandre Diggs out the door. Bobby Wagner gone. Drew Lock gone. Will Dissly also gone. Some other big-time players on this team as well. I mean, they did bring in Roshan Jenkins, who won that game for the Jaguars against the Cowboys a couple years ago, if you remember that.
The pick 6, right?
Yeah. Devin Bush is no longer on this team either. Jordan Brooks is no longer on this football team. Evan Brown, who we talked about last week, who is a member of the Arizona Cardinals now, he's no longer on this team. They lost some considerable talent here. On their offense and on their defense, really. Jason Peters, who probably should retire, but he's 42 now. Wow. Jason Peters was one of the starting left tackles last season for this football team. I don't know, man. I think the notable departure. I mean, Jamal Adams. I know they gave up a lot to get him, like 2 first-round picks, and he hasn't really lived up to that. But he's still a good football player, and you don't really have anyone that's going to replace him in your secondary. Quandre Diggs, another guy who was a cap casualty as well. I mean, you're going to be rolling out. I mean, Roshan Jenkins is a fine football player, but he's not Jamal Adams.
Yeah, Mike, I remember when that trade went down. Mike Francesca and a famed New York radio used to. You remember a show back in the day called Mike and the Mad Dog?
Just vaguely.
Vaguely. So it was Mike Francesca and Mad Dog Russo. Like that was their thing. They was on from like 1 a.m. till about 6-ish in the morning. Like they went, like it started off with them, and then it goes from them to Mike and Mike, like Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick. But when that trade went down, Mike, and I think it was like the first or second year afterwards. Like Mike Francesca, he was very critical of Jamal Adams, not the Jets. And he's like, Jamal Adams is this, he's a diva, he's da. And truth be told, both teams are probably worse off. Like the Jets are the Jets, and with that, the Jets got they got some players with those draft picks. Seattle, unfortunately, is where they are, and it is. But like he got asked why he turned down the contract with Seattle, and it's because they wanted to move him to linebacker. Like they went to him and was like, "Hey, we'll give you a deal, but you got to move the linebacker." And Jamal Adams won with that.
Yeah, I mean, if you do that, I mean, it's less money. Like it's really just it would suck. But I mean, they lose Conrad Diggs, they lose Bobby Wagner. I mean, this is not like these are not like Bobby Wagner's a surefire Hall of Famer. He's a Seahawk legend. I know he played one season in LA. But I mean, how he's going to be a Washington Commander. Drew Lock, for whatever Drew Lock was, I mean, you basically just replaced him with Sam Howell. Will Dissly's been a good tight end for this football team, but you have Noah Fant. You drafted the rookie out of Michigan. You don't really need him. And Seattle, I just don't think they're going to be that. I just don't think they're going to be that good this year. And I guess we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I think when you talk about free agency, I mean, this is kind of what happens when you don't really draw because people don't really know how good you're going to be. You don't get the good free agents. You have to kind of just continue to build through the draft. Even when Seattle was Seattle, I mean, they could still build all of that team that they built was through the draft.
Through the draft. Yeah, Bobby Wagner is one of them bulls that you don't want to see. Like we've seen it twice now. I don't want to see Bobby Wagner in another game.
Let me just give me real quick. I'm gonna add Matt James into the show. What's up, Matt? How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm good, man. Welcome into the show. We're talking about free agency when it comes to Seattle Seahawks. I'll let TJ have the floor back.
Yep.
I don't like Bobby Wagner is one of those team staples that you don't want to see where like another team, it was bad enough seeing him wear a Rams uniform, albeit for one season.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird seeing him in a Commanders jersey, that's for sure.
Like that's like I don't get it. Like that's team man. Like that's just bad upper management. Like that shouldn't happen. Like I felt it like it was like seeing Thomas Jones in the Jets uniform. And that don't.
Yeah.
That's like no. Right, like Peanut Tillman when he left. I forgot where he ended up when he left the Bears. That's just like.
Did he go to Carolina?
I think so. It's like ew. Like that's not the same. It's like that's no. That's a no. Like you don't want to see that.
Yeah, I think it sucks that when you lose players like Quandre Diggs was a good football player for this team, but it kind of felt like it was time for him to move on. I don't know. I mean, this is probably when it comes to roster shakeup, when it comes to free agency, this is probably like a C.
Easy. I mean, I like Jerome Baker. I like Lakin Thompson. Again, you can never have too many guys up front. And Jerome Baker's like one of those linebackers that probably don't get talked about enough. This dude is good. Dude can ball.
Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you guys. It's, one of those things where they do need to make, organizational changes and move on from, you can look at that, at least the first half of it with all those players that have been there for, years, and they're continuing to drop from the early to mid 2010s there that, we're used to that Seattle Seahawk defense that, most teams, feared and stuff. So it's good that they're, slowly shaking things up. I mean, you gotta kind of do that. Was another player they added Noah Fant too, right?
Noah Fant came over in the
okay. That's what I thought. I just
they did extend him though. I don't.
That's right. Okay,
I don't remember
that's what happened.
Yeah, they extended. They gave him a new contract, $10.5 million for the tight end position.
Yeah,
probably an okay. Let's be real. Noah Fant's just been okay.
Yeah, he hasn't, lived up to his college days yet. So
no, sure not. And then from there, let's talk about the schedule. Let's talk about their ceiling. Let's talk about their floor. I don't remember what we did with Arizona on the last episode of the Prime. let's start with the ceiling because we're a Positive Pete show here at Prime Sports World. What is the ceiling for the Seattle Seahawks?
Let's see what we got here.
One Cardinal, one Viking.
Denver.
The ceiling
Lions.
is, man, they somehow go 8-9.
Man, that's awfully grim. Like
They
I
somehow
mean, I would say 7, maybe 8 for
so,
a ceiling.
at home. Like, so their ceiling is
Yeah.
the best possible outcome. I think they could beat Denver. They can go to New England and beat them. They can beat the Giants. I think they can get one game from San Fran.
Mm.
They can get one game from the Rams. They can sweep the Arizona Cardinals. They can beat Minnesota. So what is that? It's a 1, 2, 3.
Wait.
That's
Say-
5 and 3 or 4 and 4.
Say that again. You said sweep Arizona.
7, 8. It's still the 8. So
Yeah.
it's still the 8. I guess. Yeah. I guess.
You never know. They could maybe steal one at Soldier Field again. But you never know what state the Bears will be.
We don't know what state the
I mean,
Jets will
8
be.
wins. I mean, around 500.
I mean, the last time we saw them in Soldier Field was what, 2018? That season?
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm talking about all those old players that are leaving.
So last time we saw them, we beat them. We stole the win.
Yeah, that's true.
I ain't gonna say steal it because Amukamara pretty much sealed it with a pick 6. You said they still won from the Niners. That's what about that one?
Uh,
I don't know.
the Niners don't feel like showing up.
I guess 8. I guess I'm more pessimistic than when I looked at when I switched to the first 3 games, I was like, oh, they can win 2 of those 3. And I look at the rest of the schedule, I'm like, man, I don't think they can beat the Rams. I don't think they can beat San Fran. Like, I don't think they're beating the Jets. I don't think they're going to beat the Packers or the Bears or Buffalo or Atlanta.
I just remember that game last. I remember that game last season against Detroit. They stole that one. That game was a damn good game. That was one of the best games of the year. I think they won something like 37-31.
Wasn't it? I think that was 2 years ago.
No, that was last year.
No, that was 2 years ago because that game allowed them to have the tiebreaker over the Lions.
Right. Because Detroit was in the win and in scenario. No.
Yeah. So.
Because Detroit still won and they still didn't make it.
Yeah, because Seattle had the tiebreaker, and that's how Seattle got into the playoffs that season. I mean, I reserve the right to be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, no, it says 2023, week 2. That was 37 September 17th, 2023, 37-31.
Did they play the season before that too? Yeah, they played the season before that where they had that game where there was 48-45. I thought that's the game you were talking about. My bad.
Talking about this. Talking about the one last year. Because Seattle ended up winning in overtime.
Yeah, overtime. Yeah. Okay, my bad. Oh, my bad. Let's talk about the other side of this coin. Let's talk about the floor. I think the floor is far more grim. Like, I think, they still beat New England. I think they still beat the Giants. I think they still beat Minnesota. And I think they get one game on Arizona. That's 4 wins. I just don't see where the rest of them come.
Floor. Somewhat like 5-5 and 5-12, 6-11. If they do something like that, then it's entirely possible that you looking at you're looking at a Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. You're looking at
The kid from Tennessee,
Quinn Ewers out of Texas. So it's like if it do something like that, y'all do It's entirely
But I
possible.
do think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, right? I think like 6 wins is probably realistic for if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. I just don't like their division's tough and the schedule's pretty tough. Like I just don't think that this is going to be a season where you're going to have like I don't think you're even going to push for a playoff spot this year. I think it's going to be. I think you're going to regress a
No,
little bit.
no, especially with the 3 teams coming out of the North. I mean, you can argue with the East having 2, maybe 1 surprise team in there for the third.
I mean, who knows?
I
Who
mean, you
knows?
got other divisions fighting, for that 7th spot. That I agree. Seattle's
You're looking at it like this.
on the downfall below that mark. So
You're looking at
even
it
on a
like
down year for the NFC.
you're looking at it like this. Like you're basically looking. Hey man, we're already a wild card team. Like, we're not going to be better than the Niners. They're projected to win this thing again, and then the Rams are gonna be. They're gonna be in the mix somehow too. So you look at it like, damn, we're already competing for one of the wild card spots. And Matt just said it. Like, bro, like the North gonna have 3 teams that will possibly be in it. Again, the Rams are gonna be a possible wild card team. You got whoever wins the South, unfortunately, that they get a
Man, Atlanta's pushing all their chips to the middle, man. They're all in. Justin Simmons, I mean, man, Matthew Judon. Thinking of Atlanta's going to be so good next season. Let's go. But as long as Kirk Cousins can go, man,
that's what I'm saying. As long as you got Kirk Cousins, but that comes into question. How long are we gonna have Kirk Cousins? That's a viable question at this stage of his career, coming off the injury that he's coming off of. This the same thing with the Jets. It's like, yo, how long? We got Aaron Rodgers, but how long are we gonna have Aaron Rodgers?
Yep.
So, like, if you're Seattle, like, hey, man, like, you gotta look at it like this. Like, we're already playing catch up. We're already playing. We ain't played the game yet, but we're already playing catch up.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're probably going to be probably going to be like a 7-6 win team. In the mix for probably a top 10 pick when it comes to all said and done this season. But maybe they'll shock the people. Maybe Geno Smith will play really well this season, but I'm not going to bank on that, and I wouldn't take that anywhere near a bank. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. This has been our Seattle Seahawks season preview.
Real quick, before we go, like, because I was like, did you give a what would be constitute as a good season for Geno? Because you only threw 20 touchdowns last season, right?
Well, I mean, I think if 3,600 yards is nothing to sneeze at. I think if you can continue that kind of 3,600,
it's not. But we live in an age where 4,000 is like, bruh.
I mean, if you can get back near 4,000 yards and throw for 25 touchdowns, like that would be a pretty good Geno Smith season.
Bro, give me 30 guys. So because you brought up the contract situation, and they got buyouts, right? Not buyouts, opt-outs. So say he do again, we're expecting them to not be good. We're expecting them to be basically average or below average. So let's floor. Let's say they go 6-11, but he does 3,800 or more, 25 to 30 touchdowns, maybe 9 to 11 interceptions. Do they keep him?
I mean, probably. I mean, I
would you keep him?
Yeah, I probably would keep him. I think because of the situation, I don't expect Seattle to be so bad that they're going to have a first overall pick where they're have the pick of the litter when it comes to quarterbacks. I mean, Geno Smith can either those guys probably won't be ready. Keep Geno Smith for one more season probably. I mean, I don't really know what better you're going to get, what the scenario would be, but they're not going to be in a scenario where taking a quarterback that I think is going to be ready to play right away. Probably not, at least.
I came across a way. If I find it, I'll screenshot it and send it to her because I ain't gonna hold it up on there. I gotta find that slide where it was a mock draft. They had mocked out. It was a way too early. They had the Giants first overall getting Shedeur Sanders, and it just it went from there.
Okay, well, we'll see. This has been our Seattle Seahawks season preview. Thank you very much for joining us. We're swinging down to LA after this and talking about the Los Angeles Rams tomorrow. And then we're going to swing into some fantasy stuff on Wednesday as we're going to give you our top 20 players at every position. Outside of defense, we'll probably only do top 10 defenses. But you don't want to miss any of that content. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm David Huffman right there, TJ Hopkins, and Mr. Matthew James. Hope you all had a fantastic evening. Hope you guys all have a fantastic Tuesday. We'll be back here tomorrow. And gentlemen, what do we do? Hit the prime, my friend.
Bring the heat.
Yes, sir. We'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all stay safe out there. And hope you guys enjoy the weather. It's been, pretty nice here in Fort Wayne. A little chilly, but nice.
Yep. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Peace out. What, Payson?